Top HFY stories. Permit me to interject just like that 2614 r/HFY ***. Hashtag story 1, permit me to interject. The Galactic Diplomatic Summit of 2614 was the largest in history. Representatives from over 1,000 species gathered in the grand crystalline halls of Heliopolis Station, a shimmering jewel orbiting the gas giant Zainara. Discussions were heated, a new trade charter was being debated, and the consequences would ripple across the galaxy for generations. The Kravanax Dominion, a reptilian species known for their cunning, and the Boltheri conglomerate, a cephalopod-like race with a monopoly on intergalactic logistics, were locked in a war of words. For hours, they argued over tariff percentages, import controls, and military implications, their booming voices echoing through the chamber. In the back of the room sat Commander Laura Chase, humanity's representative, a relatively young species in galactic terms. Humans were often overlooked in such gatherings. Laura's presence was more a formality than a necessity, or so the other species believed. Finally, after the Kravanax and Boltheri reached an impasse, a low murmur spread through the chamber. The Kravanax envoy sneered. "It seems we're at a stalemate. Perhaps the humans would like to weigh in, if they have anything of substance to add." Laughter rippled across the assembly, but Laura stood, her expression calm. She tapped a button on her wrist pad, and a holographic display sprang to life above her. "Permit me to interject," she said, her voice steady but firm. The room quieted. "While the Kravanax and Boltheri bicker over percentages, you've both overlooked a critical factor, the Vorkathic drift." She gestured to the map, zooming in on a cluster of trade routes. "This region is a bottleneck for over 70% of your combined trade traffic. Whoever controls it, controls the entire charter's flow." The Kravanax envoy narrowed his eyes. "And what of it, human?" Laura's lips curled into a faint smile. "Humanity controls the drift." A shocked silence fell over the room. Laura continued. "We've established outposts, fortified them, and secured trade agreements with the Vorkath natives. Neither of you can enact a trade charter without our cooperation, so, instead of arguing over tariffs, perhaps it's time you considered humanity's proposal." She tapped her wrist pad again, and a new document appeared. A fair distribution of profits, shared control of key routes, and mutual protection clauses for all parties involved. This benefits everyone, especially humanity. The Kravanax and Boltheri exchanged stunned glances. The laughter from earlier had vanished, replaced by grudging respect. As Laura sat down, she allowed herself a small smile. Humanity might be new to the galactic stage, but they'd just made it clear, they weren't to be underestimated. Hashtag story 2, just like that. The cafeteria on the ISS Unity was a bustling hub of activity. Humans and aliens alike mingled, sharing stories, meals, and occasional misunderstandings over what constituted edible food. Elliot Daniels, an engineer from Earth, was sitting with a group of Thraxians, a species resembling oversized praying mantises. They were in the middle of a heated debate about tactics in a popular galactic strategy game when the lights flickered. An announcement blared over the intercom. "Attention all personnel. Intruder alert. Section C-14 through C-18. Security teams respond immediately." The Thraxians froze, their mandibles clicking nervously. "An intruder on the ship?" one of them chittered. Elliot stood, his expression calm. "Stay here, I'll check it out." The Thraxians stared in disbelief. "But you're just an engineer, you're not trained for combat." Elliot grinned. "I'm human, we improvise." Grabbing a multi-tool from his belt, Elliot headed toward the affected sections. The corridors were eerily silent, the usual hum of the ship muted. As he approached C-14, he spotted a group of towering figures in black armor, mercenaries. They were hacking into a control panel, clearly aiming to sabotage the ship's navigation. Elliot ducked behind a support beam, his mind racing. He had no weapon, no backup, and no time to wait for security, but he did have something the intruders didn't expect: human audacity. He pulled a small power cell from his multi-tool, jury-rigged a makeshift EMP device, and lobbed it toward the mercenaries. The device detonated with a sharp crack, and the intruders' equipment sparked and died. Disoriented, they turned just in time to see Elliot charging at them with a length of reinforced pipe he'd grabbed from a maintenance rack. "Surprise!" he shouted, swinging the pipe with all his might. The first mercenary went down. The others, still recovering from the EMP, struggled to react as Elliot weaved between them, landing precise blows and using the narrow corridor to his advantage. By the time security arrived, the mercenaries were subdued, and Elliot was leaning against the wall, catching his breath. One of the officers blinked at the scene. "You took them all down by yourself?" Elliot shrugged. "Just like that." Word of Elliot's heroics spread quickly through the ship. The Thraxians, who'd been skeptical of humanity's capabilities, now regarded him with awe. From that day on, Whenever someone doubted what humans could do, the Thraxians would click their mandibles and say, just like that. These stories were just two examples of how humanity, though underestimated by the galaxy at large, consistently proved that their ingenuity, courage, and sheer grit could overcome any challenge. The tales of humanity's ingenuity, as showcased in Permit Me to Interject and Just Like That, were far from isolated incidents. By 2614, stories of humans rising to challenges with audacity and cunning were not just anecdotes, they were becoming a phenomenon across the galaxy. Chapter 3, One Shot, One Chance ***. The mining colony on Delta Pixis 4 had been silent for days. Its last transmission had been a frantic SOS, followed by static. The colony was small but critical, as it sat on a rich deposit of traxium, a rare mineral essential for starship drives. The Galactic Council dispatched an elite task force to investigate, including several renowned operatives. Among them was Lieutenant Sarah Vega, the lone human on the team. While humanity's contributions were respected, Sarah's inclusion in the operation raised some eyebrows. The task force arrived to find the colony's surface scorched, the buildings eerily intact but empty. Scanners picked up no life signs. Pirates, muttered Rekvar, a towering reptilian warrior, their signature is all over this. Sarah frowned. Maybe, but something's off. Pirates don't leave without stripping a place clean. The traxium deposits are untouched. The team descended into the mines, weapons drawn. The tunnels were narrow and dark, the walls glittering faintly with veins of traxium. As they moved deeper, strange markings began to appear on the walls, claw marks, too deep and precise for any known tools. A sudden shriek echoed through the tunnels. The team froze. From the shadows emerged creatures unlike anything recorded in the Galactic Codex, tall and insectoid, with chitinous bodies and glowing yellow eyes. They moved with unnatural speed. The battle was chaotic. The task force's advanced weaponry barely slowed the creatures, and the narrow tunnels made it impossible to regroup. One by one, the operatives fell, until only Sarah remained, cornered in a small chamber with her back against a traxium vein. She scanned her surroundings, her mind racing. Her rifle was nearly out of charge, and the creatures were closing in. Think, Sarah, she muttered, improvise. Her eyes fell on the traxium. It was volatile under the right conditions, and she had just enough charge left in her weapon to trigger it. With trembling hands, she rigged a makeshift charge using her rifle and a detonator from her belt. As the creatures closed in, she activated the device and sprinted toward an exit shaft. Come on, come on. The explosion rocked the tunnels, collapsing the chamber and sealing the creatures inside. Sarah barely made it to the surface before the ground buckled beneath her. When she emerged, battered but alive, she found a council rescue ship waiting. The captain, a stern-faced Boltheri, stared at her in astonishment. You survived? Sarah nodded, catching her breath. Yeah, and I found your problem. You're going to need a bigger team to deal with those things. The Council's report on the Delta Pixis 4 incident would note that the human operatives' quick thinking and courage had saved the colony's traxium reserves, and possibly the galaxy from a new, unknown threat. Chapter 4, The Last Word. In the farthest reaches of the galaxy, where law and order were mere suggestions, the Black Nova Syndicate ruled. They were feared, ruthless, and untouchable, or so they thought. When the Syndicate kidnapped a prominent Galactic Council diplomat, demanding an outrageous ransom, the Council debated their options. Military action was risky. The Syndicate's base was deep in an asteroid field, nearly impenetrable. Negotiation seemed the only option. Enter Commander Julian Hayes, a human diplomat with a reputation for unconventional methods. The Syndicate's leader, a hulking figure named Dravik, smirked as Julian entered the negotiation chamber. They sent a human? I expected more, gravitas. Julian smiled, unbothered. Gravitas is overrated. Let's talk terms. The negotiation was tense. Dravik's demands were outrageous, and Julian appeared to concede at every turn, agreeing to the ransom and promising no retaliation. Finally, Dravik leaned back, satisfied. Well, human, you've proven yourself surprisingly reasonable. Transfer the credits, and we'll release the diplomat. Julian tilted his head, his smile widening. About that. Before Dravik could react, the room's lights dimmed, and alarms blared. Syndicate enforcers burst in, weapons drawn. Sir, the Council's fleet just disabled our defenses. They're boarding. Dravik glared at Julian. What did you do? Julian shrugged. I stalled. Humans talk a lot. Sometimes, we use that time to plan an ambush. As Galactic Council troops swarmed the base, Julian leaned closer to Dravik. Next time, don't underestimate a species that survived centuries of internal squabbles before taking to the stars. We've got a knack for turning the tables. Dravik growled but said nothing as he was taken into custody. These stories were yet more proof of humanity's unique place in the galaxy, whether through diplomacy, courage, or sheer ingenuity. Humans consistently showed that they weren't just survivors, they were game changers. And in 2614, the galaxy was learning that lesson one story at a time. Top HFY stories. Permit me to interject just like that 2614 r/HFY***. The year is 2614. Humanity has long since expanded beyond the confines of Earth, scattering among the stars like dandelion seeds on a breeze. With this expansion came challenges, alliances, and unexpected tales of triumph and ingenuity that often found their way to the interstellar storytelling hub, r/HFY, humanity. Yeah. Two of the most upvoted stories of the year had captured the imaginations of readers across the galaxy. Permit me to interject, and just like that. Permit me to interject. The story begins in the Galactic Assembly, a sprawling council where representatives from every known species debate the laws and policies governing the galaxy. Humanity, as the newest member, was given a single delegate seat, a symbolic position often dismissed as irrelevant by the elder races. Ambassador Elena Torres had only been in her role for 3 weeks when she found herself in the middle of a heated debate over trade routes. The Zyrithians, a race known for their ruthless economic policies, proposed a new regulation that would grant them control over key hyperspace lanes. Most of the assembly seemed resigned to approve the measure without contest, as challenging the Zyrithians typically led to economic ruin. But Elena had other plans. Permit me to interject, she said, her voice cutting through the cacophony of alien tongues. The room fell silent. It wasn't the words themselves that caused the pause, but the tone, a calm confidence that seemed almost alien in itself. Elena presented her case with precision, citing obscure clauses in the Galactic Charter that even the Zyrithians had overlooked. Her arguments were laced with an undeniable logic, but what truly swayed the assembly was her unshakable belief in fairness and cooperation. By the time she finished, not only was the Zyrithian proposal defeated, but humanity had gained a newfound respect in the eyes of the galaxy. As the story spread across r/HFY, readers celebrated Elena's victory as a prime example of humanity's ability to stand firm against overwhelming odds. Just like that. In a quiet corner of the galaxy, a human-engineered mining outpost on the planet Helios 7 had become the focus of an escalating territorial dispute with the Vraxis. The Vraxis were a warlike species, towering predators with claws that could shear through steel. They valued strength above all else and saw humans as weak and unworthy of the rich Heliosite or beneath the planet's crust. One day, a Vraxis warlord named Korik issued an ultimatum to the human miners: leave the planet within 24 hours or face annihilation. Instead of fleeing, the miners contacted a man known only by his callsign, Jack Cogs Dalton. Jack wasn't a soldier or a diplomat, he was an engineer with a reputation for solving impossible problems. When Korik's fleet descended upon Helios 7, Jack stood alone on the barren surface, armed only with a wrench and a portable comm unit. The warlord laughed at the sight, his voice booming across the battlefield. "You dare face me with nothing but a tool?" Korik sneered. Jack simply smiled. "Just like that," he said, flipping a switch on his comm unit. Instantly, the Vraxis fleet powered down, their ships rendered inert. Jack had hacked into their systems and deployed a virus that locked their controls and disabled their weapons. The warlord, humiliated, had no choice but to retreat, leaving Helios 7 in peace. The story of Jack's cleverness and bravery became a rallying cry for humanity's ingenuity and resilience, earning its place as one of the top posts on r/HFY. The impact of these stories. Both permit me to interject and just like that highlight the unique traits that make humanity thrive in a galaxy full of challenges: their wit, courage, and refusal to back down. These tales remind us that even in the far reaches of space, the human spirit burns brightly. And so, on r/HFY, these stories were immortalized, inspiring countless others to dream of what humanity could achieve next.